My topic is going to be about human trafficking, and I'm going to start off with a testimony of Dane. Dane, in her late 20s, was recruited in her native Thailand to travel voluntarily to Australia, where she was told she could make lots of money as a prostitute. Upon arrival in Australia, however, she was met by traffickers who took away her passport and locked her in a house. She was told that she would have to pay off a debt of over $30,000 by servicing 900 men. She was given little food to eat and was taken or forcibly escorted to a brothel 7 days a week, even when she was sick. She was told that if she tried to escape, criminal allies of the trafficking ring would catch her. Dane's exploitation ended when Australian immigration officials raided the brothel in which she was enslaved. So this is an obvious example of human trafficking, and human trafficking is the illegal movement of persons within national or across international borders for the purposes of exploitations, and such exploitations include commercial sex, manual labor, and domestic services. How is human trafficking an economic issue? Victims are usually vulnerable. And they're usually vulnerable because the victims usually come from poor countries where there's a lot of poverty. They are easily deceived, they are easily controlled, and so they fall. So a lot of traffickers go there to take them because they give them false promises of a better life, better jobs, when in reality they're forced to do something that they don't want to do. Traffickers themselves are people with poor backgrounds. Some even are previous victims of human trafficking, and they have realized how much money they can make by human trafficking. Some countries have poor law enforcement, and situations like these may be avoided various times. There's an organized criminal entrepreneurship and weak education campaigns. So trafficking is a reaction of growing poverty. And the question that arises is, how has tainted knowledge affected traffickers? Traffickers do not know what they're getting into. They are driven because they know that they will get a lot of money out of this. They don't see the consequences of what they're doing to the victims. But also we have to see the demand for prostitutes. That's a great demand, especially for women and children. So they're usually the victims in human trafficking. However, though, sometimes victims may voluntarily be trafficked because of the necessity of money. An example would be in Maria Full of Grace. A 17-year-old Maria Alvarez lives with her family in a cramped house. She works in a rose plantation in Colombia. And when the opportunity to become a drug mule arrives, she takes it because she needs the money. This example may very well be used with human trafficking. A lot of people need money for themselves and their family, so they'll be willing to do anything for it. How is human trafficking an ethical issue? Of course, human trafficking is a violation of human rights. The victims are coerced, meaning they are threatened, they are beaten, and sometimes drugged in order to be controlled. And traffickers constantly use the creation of fear and dependency amongst the victims in order for them to stay. Slavery is also another obvious ethical issue. As we know, in the 18th century we had slavery, but it was more of a racial issue between whites and blacks. Modern day slavery is not a racial issue anymore. It involves more women and children, and they are being deceived, they are being controlled, and they're being exploited. And modern day slavery is growing more than the 18th slavery. So slavery has been going on for quite a while. Worldwide, the ILO, which is the International Labor Organization from the United Nations, they have estimated about 12.3 people being trafficked, but there are other estimations where they range from 4 million to 27 million. So which is reliable? What data is reliable? We don't know that. Without reliable data, we do not know the magnitude and the impact of human trafficking. And because of this, many countries are not taking the steps necessary in order to stop this.
Great. I have a question. First of all, do you know anybody who's humanly trafficked?
No, I do not.
Why is it an important issue for you personally, and what does it have to do with you as an honest student?
Personally, one summer I was watching Lifetime, and they had a mini-series of human trafficking. A little girl was involved, and she was taken from her family, and she was exploited. She was forced to have sex with doctors, with different men, and just even if it was acting, that mere fact of her being afraid of not having anybody, and just because she was a child, she was weak, that really, it affected me, and I felt really, really badly going through it.
Do you think you could go as far as to make your own claim, your own knowledge claim, that human trafficking is the slavery of the 21st century?
Yeah.